Hello and welcome back to the Cosmic Acad, and in this video we are going to see how can we register function on a struct in Golang. So for that, let me just define a struct over here, and this time we know that how can we define a struct. So we can say type and then the struct name. So I'll say student, let's say, for example. You can create any struct whichever you want and as per your functionality. So I'll say struct and then I'll say id, as id is going to be of type string, and I'll say name as well. So this student will have name, it is going to be of type string, but id is to be of type integer. Now next we are going to define age as well. So I'll say age is going to be of type integer. So let it be for now. We'll just learn how to register a functionality on function or behavior on a student. So if you want, you can put as many as data in this student. Those all should be related to related. We know that the struct will have a related data, right? So let me just save it, and then what we need to do here is I'm going to create one variable over here. So I'll say student, and then this time I'm not going to assign default value to the struct. So I can just say, okay, this student will be of type student. All right, and then we can assign the value like this. Student, let's say student is going to be of student, not student, spelling should be correct actually. So now the same thing you can do here itself. So just cut it from here. Instead of doing it on the next line, I will just paste it here, and I'll just put equals to over here so that we can assign the default value. So in this case, I'm going to say, okay, ID will be 1, and then name is going to be, let's say, John. All right, and then age is going to be, let's say, 13. All right, this should be number actually, so we should provide the number, and we have the student over there. What we will do here is we'll just print the student information. Let's say we are printing this information on ID card. So I'll just say student and save it. Let's run this piece of code and we will see how it works. So we can see here it is getting printed over here 1 John and then 13, but this data is actually not showing what is this 1, what is this John, and then what is this 13. We are not sure about this data, what exactly this data is, right? Of course, this string John can be name, but then what is this 13? 13 can be anything, right? Or this 1 can be anything. Let's say this 1 is class instead of ID. We can assume that, right? User can, or anyone can assume that, okay, this 1 is, let's say, grade or class, right? That's the issue. So here in this tutorial, what I'm going to show you, how can you register a specific function or behavior on a struct, and then using that function you should be able to perform some action on the struct data. All right, so here what I'm going to do is, okay, we know that if this struct is an object, of course this is an object, and then this object will have the related data. And by the concept of, oops, let's say in oops, if you are not aware of oops or not, but I will just give you one example here. So if this is an object, means everything in the world, real world, is an object, right? So if that, let's say fan is an object, so fan is having behavior as well as state. What does that mean? So fan has behavior state, that means fan has data, correct? Fan has its own data or properties, that is called state. And then fan has behavior also. And what is that behavior? Fan keeps rotating, right? When fan is switched on, it will start rotating. That is the actual behavior of the fan. That means it will rotate, correct? So we should have, we have the variable over here in student, but then we should have certain behavior as well on this student, right? So what this student is doing, what this student will do, or it will define the action of the student. And how can we do that? So to register a variable, to assign a variable to a specific struct, Golang says, okay, you just type func, which is of course a function, and then you just need to define a function name or function which you are going to assign to this specific struct. So let's say this time I'm going to say, okay, I'll say toString, right? It can be any functionality whichever I want. If you want a different functionality specific to a student data, you can do that, of course. And then in this case I'm going to say okay, toString, and what this will do is actually this will just format this data and give out this data in a specific format so that we should be able to understand it properly. What does this one means? What does this John means, right? So let's see that. What I will do here is I will create a one function. Golang says okay, you need to create a function which you want to register on this student struct, and then you need to say it explicitly, like okay, this function I want to register on this specific struct, and for that you just need to use this small bracket, and inside that you need to provide the struct name. So I will say okay, student, and this is going to be of type, of course, student. Cool. Now this way we can make sure we have registered this specific function on this struct, and the struct name should be here for sure, so that Golang will say okay, let's take out this toString, okay, and register it on student, so that when you will use this student you should have access to this toString. And how can you do that? Let's verify that. I'll just comment this code for now just to demonstrate you. So I'll say student dot, if I'll put dot, you can see here we have age over there, ID over there, name over there. That's completely fine. We have defined all these three properties or variable inside this student struct, right? So we should be able to access that as well, but then we don't have anything else over here, right? So let me just do this and save this. Now we should be able to see this toString functionality also there to registered on a student struct, and let's see that if we are getting that. You can see here we have toString and this is a function. So this is super easy to register any function on a specific struct. So here what I'm going to say is okay, I need when this toString will get called, you will actually print something and it will be in a specific format, not like this. This is actually confusing, right? So I will say okay, just print this. So for that I will say println, right? But then we need not println, okay, let's use println, but then I need formatted string, and this time I'm not going to use printf, I'm going to use printf. There's one more functionality which is present on Golang FMT package, and that is printf. What does it will do? It will create a string, a formatted string, without printing it to the console. That means you will just get the formatted string and then you can use that string to pass anywhere or to use it. Correct? So let's see that in Excel. Since we know that if we will call this printf function, it will just print those values. But in this case, we just need those values, and then those values will pass in this println so that it will get printed, right? It completely depends on you. If you want to use printf here itself, you can use that, or else you can use the way in which I am doing. So I will say, and this is actually where you are learning different kind of functionalities or functions, so that you can reuse that later in your program. So here I will say okay, get me a variable, and this time I'm not going to use var keyword no more. I'm just going to use shorthand operator to create a variable. So I will say okay, let's create a variable. I will say formatted string, or we can say formatted student data, right? So here not data, but I can say string data, right? So actually name should be very specific to the functionality, so that every can one read it properly and they should be able to understand it by reading itself. All right, and we need to make sure of that. So here what I'm going to say is okay, formatted student string is there, and then we need to format that string as well. So I'm going to use fmt.printf. All right, and here I'm going to say the same thing. Okay, I will say okay, I'm going to print this data, student data, in this format. Whatever you want to select, you can select, or whatever you want to construct, you can construct. You are free to use that. So I will say this time okay, student, and then we know that this is string, it will get printed as it is, but the formatting skipping character or formatting character which we are going to use over there, that will get replaced by the actual value. So here I will say student, and then I will say id is there, right? So I say id, and then id is going to be equals to, let's say, we know that type of the id is of type integer. So for integer we use percentage d, we all know that, and then we'll say name, and name is going to be equals to, and we know that name is going to be of type string, so I'll use percentage s, right? And then age as well, so age is going to be, let's say, integer, so again I'm going to use percentage d. Now I need to provide all this data that will get actually replaced here. So first is going to be, of course, id, next is going to be the name. You need to make sure of this sequence which you have used over here, it should be in the same sequence, otherwise value will get swapped and you will be getting different value in different key, right? So then lastly I am going to say student dot age, and you can see here, if you are going to register this function on a specific student, you will get access to all of those properties, you will get access of all those data which is present on this student struct. And from where it is coming nothing from here, student. So using this student I can access name, id, not id, but I'll say student.id, student.id, and then name as well as age, right? This is how we can access the student information. We will have the access of that student information, and then using that we have created a string of this format, all right? And then finally I'm going to say okay, just print this, and I'll just copy it from here and pass this inside println so that it will get printed on through the console. Let me just save it, and we know that we have that string functionality, so here we don't need to use fmt.println, so we will just say okay, student dot not toString, just we'll say just toString, and it should be work. Okay, what was the exact error there? Okay, we have defined this variable, but then this variable we can simply define using equals to, right? We need to say colon equals to, so that it will consider this as a variable, new variable. So let me just save this, and we are done. So this way we can make sure toString will get, we don't need to use fmt or println or any of the functionality to print this data, student data, to the console. Instead we'll just call this toString function, since we know that we have a toString registered over there on this struct. So we will just use this, and then we'll just execute this, and everything should be working in the expected way. So let me just run this program and see how it works. No, still we are getting error. Why? Because this function is expected to return some string variable over there, but then we are not returning anything from here. But why should we return from here? Instead this toString will just print this value to the console, right? So I can remove this string from here. If you want this string to be there, then of course you need to put a return statement, return formatted student string data, and you can do that as well. But in this case we don't need that, so we can omit this. Let me just save this and run it once more and see if that works fine. You can see here now the student data is getting printed like this, and it is in a, you know, we should be able to read it properly. It's very easy to understand. Okay, 1 is id, John is name, and 13 is the age, right? So now this way we can create as many as a student, and we can call toString method on all of those student struct or object, you can say, and then the respective data will get printed. So this time I'm going to say id2, name is going to be, let's say, Doe, and then age is going to be, let's say, 15, and then I can say student1 and dot toString. Fine. So now we should get this toString over there to the console. Let me just run it and see if that works fine. You can see here, yeah, it works, because we have access to all the specific student data here, and then it will format those string and print it to the console. So that's the beauty of registering a function onto a specific struct, and this is how we are going to make our golang program much flexible and much reusable. All right. So thank you guys, this is it for this video, and if you guys are not able to understand it, please let me know in the comment section, and if you like it, please like this video and subscribe it. Also please share this video. I will meet you in the next video.